The people love saying, "This is my asset." They say it proudly. Their house, their car, their business, their crypto, their lifestyle. But here's the truth most people refuse to face in 2026. If it doesn't put cash in your pocket every month, it is not an asset. It's a liability wearing a fancy label. Most people believe that ownership alone equals wealth. They think that once they buy something, once their name is on a document or a title, they have secured their financial future. That belief is outdated, dangerous, and in 2026 it will quietly destroy more balance sheets than any market crash. Ownership without cash flow is just an expense with an ego. The world is full of people who own things and yet live paycheck to paycheck, stressed, overworked, and financially fragile. That is not investing. That is self-deception. The cash flow is the only thing that tells the truth. It does not care about your feelings, your dreams, or your social status. It answers one simple question every single month. Did this thing put money in your pocket, or did it take money out? If it takes money out consistently, it is not an asset. No matter how impressive it looks or how much you paid for it, you can frame it, insure it, polish it, and talk about it at dinner parties, but the bank account never lies. If your cash balance goes down because of it, you are working for that asset, not the other way around. In 2026, this distinction becomes brutal. Interest rates are higher, the credit is tighter, and inefficiency is punished immediately. In the past, people could afford to be sloppy. Cheap money covered bad decisions. Rising markets hid poor cash flow. That era is over. Today, anything that does not generate income becomes heavier with time. Taxes rise, maintenance costs increase, insurance becomes more expensive. And suddenly what you proudly called an asset starts demanding monthly sacrifices. One missed payment, one unexpected expense, and the illusion collapses. The real wealth builders think in streams, not trophies. They don't ask, "Do I own it?" They ask, "What does it pay me and how reliably?" A small, boring income producing investment that pays consistently is infinitely more powerful than a flashy possession that drains cash. Cash flow compounds. It gives you options. It allows you to reinvest, to survive downturns, and to sleep at night. Without it, you are one problem away from financial stress, regardless of how impressive your portfolio looks on paper. Many people confuse long-term potential with present reality. They say, "It will pay off later." Later is not guaranteed. Life happens in the meantime. Markets shift, regulations change, personal circumstances evolve. An investment that cannot stand on its own today becomes a liability tomorrow. The cash flow is not about greed, it is about resilience. It is the financial shock absorber that keeps you standing when conditions get rough. Without it, every economic bump feels like a crisis. Another hard truth is that cash flow reveals discipline. When you focus on income, you are forced to evaluate efficiency, margins, and sustainability. You stop falling in love with ideas and start respecting numbers. You cut what doesn't work. You strengthen what does. That mindset separates professionals from amateurs. Amateurs collect things. Professionals build systems that produce money repeatedly with minimal emotion attached. In 2026, the wealth will not belong to the loudest or the flashiest. It will belong to those who understand that money is a tool, not a status symbol. Assets exist for one purpose only, to generate income and protect your time. If something fails that test, it doesn't matter how popular it is or how many people admire it. It is financially irrelevant at best and destructive at worst. Cash flow is not optional. It is the foundation. Without it, ownership is meaningless. With it, even modest investments can grow into powerful engines of freedom. The sooner you accept this truth, the faster you stop funding liabilities and start building real wealth. People love the idea of appreciation because it sounds effortless. Buy something, wait, and one day it will be worth more. No work, no discipline, just patience. That story is comforting, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Appreciation is not income. It does not pay your bills, it does not protect you in a downturn, and it does not care about your timeline. In 2026, relying on appreciation alone is one of the fastest ways to expose yourself financially. When someone says, "This will go up in value," what they are really saying is, "I hope the market saves me." Hope is not a financial strategy. Markets move for reasons beyond your controls. The interest rates, government policy, global events, technological disruption. Any one of these can freeze prices for years or reverse them overnight. If your so-called asset only works when prices rise, then you are not an investor, you are a speculator. Real wealth is built on certainty, not optimism. Income is certain. The cash flow is measurable. You can plan around it, reinvest it, and depend on it. Appreciation, on the other hand, exists only on paper until the day you sell, and selling is never guaranteed at the price you imagine. In fact, many people discover the truth only when they try to exit and realize the market does not agree with their expectations. By then, it is too late. In 2026, this risk is magnified. The volatility is normal, not exceptional. Asset prices swing faster, narratives change quicker, and capital moves without warning. An investment that looked brilliant in one cycle can become dead weight in the next. Without income, you are forced to wait, sometimes for years, hoping conditions improve. During that waiting period, costs continue. Taxes don't stop, maintenance doesn't pause. Opportunity cost quietly eats away at your future. Another uncomfortable reality is that appreciation often encourages poor behavior. When people believe prices will always rise, they overpay, they ignore fundamentals, that they stretch themselves thin, they justify bad math with good stories. This is how bubbles form, and bubbles always end the same way. Those who depended on appreciation panic. Those who depended on income stay calm. The difference is not intelligence, it is structure. Income-producing assets give you control. Even if prices fluctuate, the cash flow allows you to hold, to adjust, or to exit on your terms. Appreciation-only assets remove that control. They trap you emotionally and financially. You watch charts, read headlines, and react to noise instead of focusing on fundamentals. That is not investing, that is stress disguised as strategy. Smart investors treat appreciation as a bonus, not a requirement. If an asset goes up in value, excellent. If it doesn't, the income still justifies the ownership. That mindset creates resilience. That allows you to survive long, flat periods without panic. It also gives you the ability to capitalize on opportunities when others are forced to sell because they have no cash flow to support their positions. The most important question in 2026 is not, how much will it be worth someday? It is, what does it pay me while I wait? If the answer is nothing, you are exposed. Time is not free. The time costs money, and income is what pays that cost. Without it, you are borrowing from your future and hoping nothing goes wrong. Appreciation feels exciting, but income builds wealth. One feeds the ego, the other feeds the balance sheet. When markets become unpredictable, clarity beats excitement every time. Those who understand this stop chasing stories and start building systems that work in any environment. That is how real wealth survives long after the hype disappears. The people rarely admit it, but many of the things they call assets are really just lifestyle choices dressed up as financial decisions. They buy them not because the numbers make sense, but because of how those things make them feel, or how they make them look to others. In 2026, this confusion between lifestyle and investing will quietly keep millions of people stuck, busy and financially stressed, even though they appear successful on the surface. The lifestyle assets are seductive because they offer instant validation. A bigger home, a luxury car, expensive gadgets, and constant upgrades create the illusion of progress. The society applauds these moves. Friends admire them. Social media rewards them. But money does not care about applause. Every lifestyle-driven purchase comes with ongoing costs that never show up in the original excitement: maintenance, insurance, depreciation, taxes, and opportunity cost. These costs compound silently, month after month, draining cash that could have been working for you. The real danger is not the initial purchase. It is the long-term commitment. Once you raise your lifestyle, it becomes your new baseline. Your income must now support not just your needs, but your image. That pressure forces people to work more, that take fewer risks, and say yes to things they would otherwise avoid. Instead of money buying freedom, lifestyle assets steal it. You become trapped in a cycle where your time serves your possessions, not your future. In 2026, this trap becomes more expensive. Inflation does not just raise prices, it raises expectations. Everything costs more to maintain. Insurance premiums rise, repairs become unpredictable. Energy costs fluctuate. What once felt manageable slowly turns into a financial weight. Because these assets do not produce income, there is no internal mechanism to offset rising costs. Every increase must come from your earned income, which is the most fragile form of money you have. Another problem with lifestyle assets is that they create false confidence. The people see what you own and assume you are doing well. That external validation can delay necessary financial corrections. Instead of asking hard questions, people double down, upgrading again, refinancing, or stretching further to maintain appearances. By the time reality sets in, options are limited. Selling lifestyle assets often means taking losses, because many of them depreciate the moment you buy them. True assets behave very differently. They may not be glamorous, but they reduce pressure instead of increasing it. They create breathing room. They quietly produce income that can absorb shocks, fund growth, or cover mistakes. Lifestyle assets do the opposite. They amplify every small problem. Temporary income disruption becomes a crisis. An unexpected expense becomes debt. Stress becomes constant even if it is hidden behind a polished exterior. The most important shift is psychological. Wealth is not about looking rich, it is about being secure. Security is boring. It does not photograph well, but it is powerful. That allows you to make decisions based on logic instead of fear. In 2026, those who prioritize security over status will be the ones who move ahead while others struggle to maintain illusions. This does not mean eliminating all enjoyment or comfort. It means understanding the difference between spending and investing. Spending should be intentional and controlled. Investing should be disciplined and income-focused. When those lines blur, lifestyle inflation replaces wealth creation. The result is a life that feels expensive but fragile. The harsh truth is that many people could dramatically improve their financial position simply by downgrading what they call assets. Less maintenance, fewer obligations. The more flexibility. Money works best when it is light, mobile, and productive. Lifestyle assets make it heavy and slow. In 2026, the winners will not be the ones with the biggest houses or the fastest cars. They will be the ones with the strongest cash flow, the lowest stress, and the greatest control over their time. That is what real wealth looks like when the noise fades. Debt is often misunderstood. Many people repeat the idea that all debt is bad, while others blindly believe debt is the key to getting rich. Both views are incomplete, and in 2026, the misunderstanding debt will turn ordinary financial mistakes into permanent damage. Debt is a tool. Like any tool, it can build or it can destroy, depending entirely on how it is used and what it is attached to. When debt is paired with strong, predictable cash flow, it can accelerate growth. The income covers the cost of borrowing, reduces risk, and leaves room for profit. But when debt is attached to a weak or non-producing asset, it becomes a ticking time bomb. Every month, interest demands its payment regardless of whether your asset performs. The bank does not care about your intentions or your long-term vision. It only cares about cash, the on time every time. In 2026, this reality is harsher than ever. Cheap debt is gone. Interest rates are higher, lending standards are tighter, and patience from lenders is minimal. That means the margin for error is thin. An asset that barely worked when money was cheap can collapse under the weight of higher payments. What once looked manageable suddenly becomes suffocating. The problem is not the asset alone, it is the combination of weak income and expensive debt. Many people convince themselves that debt is temporary. They believe future growth, raises, or market appreciation will rescue them. That belief ignores how quickly conditions can change. Jobs are not guaranteed. Markets do not move on schedules. Expenses rarely decrease. When income dips even slightly, the debt exposure reveals itself immediately. Payments remain fixed while your ability to pay becomes uncertain. Stress enters the picture long before default does. Another danger of debt is that it removes flexibility. When you are heavily leveraged, your options shrink. You cannot easily sell, refinance, or pivot without consequences. You make decisions based on obligations rather than opportunities. Instead of asking, what is the best move? You ask, what move keeps me afloat? That mindset is the opposite of wealth building. It turns proactive investors into reactive survivors. Debt also magnifies mistakes. A small miscalculation without debt is a lesson. The same miscalculation with leverage becomes a crisis. Timing errors, unexpected repairs, regulatory changes, or market slowdowns all hit harder when interest is involved. In 2026, with uncertainty built into the global economy, this amplification effect makes poor debt decisions especially dangerous. Smart investors respect debt. They stress test it. They assume worst-case scenarios and make sure the asset can survive them. They build buffers. They do not rely on best-case outcomes. They understand that debt should reduce risk through structure, not increase it through optimism. If the numbers do not work conservatively, they walk away, no matter how attractive the deal appears. The most important question is simple: if income dropped tomorrow, would this asset still survive its debt? If the answer is no, the asset is not strong enough to carry leverage. In that case, debt turns ownership into liability. You are no longer building wealth, you are borrowing time and hoping nothing goes wrong. In 2026, financial strength will belong to those who use debt selectively and intelligently. They will avoid emotional purchases funded by leverage. They will prioritize stability over scale. They will understand that the goal is not to own more, but to own better. The debt should serve your strategy, not define it. Used wisely, debt can accelerate progress. Used carelessly, it destroys freedom. The difference is not luck, it is disciplined math, and the willingness to say no when the numbers do not make sense. One of the most overlooked risks in personal finance is illiquidity. People talk endlessly about returns, growth, and long-term potential, but very few talk about access. In 2026, Access to your money matters just as much as how much your investment might be worth on paper. An asset that traps your capital can quietly turn from a symbol of security into a source of vulnerability. The illiquidity means you cannot easily convert your asset into cash without delay, loss, or stress. On a spreadsheet, everything looks fine. In real life, timing is everything. The emergencies do not announce themselves. Opportunities do not wait. When your money is locked away, you lose control. Control is what separates stability from chaos. Without it, the even valuable assets can feel like liabilities. Many people assume they will never need quick access to capital. That assumption is based on optimism, not experience. The life changes fast. Health issues, family responsibilities, business disruptions, and economic shocks arrive without warning. When that happens, the ability to act quickly becomes priceless. If your wealth is tied up in assets that take months to sell or require perfect market conditions, then you are exposed at the worst possible moment. In 2026, markets move faster than ever, but exits are not guaranteed. Liquidity dries up precisely when you need it most. The buyers disappear. Prices drop. What you thought was a solid investment suddenly becomes unsellable at any reasonable value. At that point, you are forced into bad decisions. Selling at a loss, borrowing at high interest, or waiting while the situation worsens. None of these outcomes are part of a smart wealth plan. The illiquid assets also create psychological pressure. When you know your money is trapped, fear influences your thinking. That you become conservative in the wrong moments and reckless in others. You hesitate when opportunity appears because you lack ready capital. Meanwhile, those with liquidity can move decisively. They buy when others are forced to sell. They negotiate from strength. Liquidity is not just financial power, it is mental clarity. Another hidden cost of illiquidity is missed opportunity. Capital tied up in one place cannot be redeployed. While you wait for appreciation or a distant payoff, the better opportunities may appear and disappear. The cost is invisible but real. Over time, this lost flexibility compounds into underperformance. Wealth is not built by waiting, it is built by positioning. Smart investors treat liquidity as insurance. They do not put all their capital into assets that require perfect conditions to exit. They balance long-term holdings with liquid reserves. They understand that holding some cash or easily tradable investments is not laziness, it is strategy. The liquidity allows you to absorb shocks without panic and act with confidence when others cannot. In 2026, uncertainty is a permanent feature, not a temporary phase. That makes liquidity more valuable, not less. The idea that you should tie up every dollar for maximum theoretical return ignores reality. The maximum return means nothing if you cannot access your capital when it matters most. Survival always comes before optimization. Illiquidity turns time against you. The longer you are forced to wait, the fewer choices you have. Liquidity restores balance. It gives you the ability to respond instead of react. It keeps you in control when conditions change. That control is the foundation of real wealth. An asset that cannot be sold, adjusted, or leveraged quickly is risky, no matter how promising it appears. In 2026, flexibility beats pride, access beats illusion, and liquidity is what keeps wealth functional in the real world. Not just impressive on paper. The ultimate purpose of money is not accumulation, it is freedom. Yet many people build portfolios that do the exact opposite. They own things that look impressive, sound intelligent, and feel important, but quietly fill their lives with stress. In 2026, the difference between real assets and expensive distractions will become impossible to ignore. Anything that increases anxiety instead of reducing it is failing its most basic financial purpose. A true asset works even when you are not paying attention to it. It produces income, preserves capital, and allows you to step back without fear. You do not need to constantly monitor it, defend it, or justify it. When something demands your constant energy, attention, and emotional involvement just to survive, it is not serving you. You are serving it. That is a liability, no matter how sophisticated it appears. Stress is an invisible cost, but it is one of the most expensive ones. Sleepless nights, constant checking, and ongoing worry erode decision-making. When stress is high, people make reactive choices. They sell at the wrong time, borrow under pressure, or chase quick fixes. Over time, this emotional wear leads to poor outcomes that have nothing to do with intelligence and everything to do with fatigue. Assets should simplify your life, not complicate it. In 2026, the time will be the most valuable currency. Those who understand this will build systems that buy back their time instead of consuming it. Income-producing assets do exactly that. They allow you to detach. They give you the space to think long-term. They reduce urgency. When your money is working, you do not need to constantly hustle to keep everything afloat. The freedom grows quietly from that stability. Another sign of a real asset is scalability. A strong asset improves as time passes. Income grows. Risk decreases. efficiency increases. The liability does the opposite. It demands more input just to maintain the same output, more effort, more money, more attention. If something requires constant upgrades, interventions, or rescues to remain relevant, it is not compounding. It is consuming. Control is also central to freedom. Assets that are transparent, understandable, the unpredictable give you control. You know what to expect and how to respond. Assets that rely on perfect conditions, external validation, or continuous optimism remove that control. That they make you dependent on factors you cannot influence. Dependence is the enemy of wealth. Independence is its foundation. In 2026, that the most successful individuals will not be the ones chasing every trend. They will be the ones refining their portfolios with discipline, cutting what creates noise, strengthening what creates income, simplifying where possible. Wealth grows faster when complexity is reduced. Clarity always outperforms chaos. The hardest decisions often involve letting go of assets that no longer serve you, letting go of ideas that once felt exciting but now feel heavy, the letting go of ego-driven ownership. These decisions are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Progress requires subtraction before multiplication. True wealth is quiet. It does not demand attention. It does not require explanation. It provides options. It gives you the ability to say no. It gives you room to think, plan, and live on your own terms. If an asset does not move you closer to that state, it is not aligned with your goals. In 2026, the question is simply, does this asset give me more freedom or does it take it away? If it takes it away, the label does not matter. The only thing that matters is the result. Real assets buy freedom. Everything else is just an expensive lesson.